I've dealt with some of the hardest policy problems many of them you wouldn't want to have had to deal with, in many different portfolios, in social services, in immigration, in Treasury, and I can tell you, we have never had to deal with a more complex policy problem than this. And that's why I'm not going to be rushed on it. I'm going to be careful about it. I'm going to take the advice. I'm going to grill the data. I'm going to listen to people, as I've just come from listening to them now again. And we're going to weigh these decisions very, very carefully. Yeah, Greg.
Anthony Byrne has been...
Can we stay on...
Prime Minister, can I ask...
National security implications.
The economist Warren Hogan, he's told Sky News that we have an effective unemployment rate of 11.5%, which I guess goes with the 830,000 jobs you're talking about losing. Do you agree with that assessment? And just to be blunt about it, what are you going to do about it?
Well, again, like I did when the unemployment figures with the Treasurer last time, I indicated that the unemployment rate, I think, does understate where things are on the ground. That's why I made no reference to the rate. I made reference to the fact that 838,000 jobs had been lost, because that's what's actually happened out there. And how that, adds up in the various, economic measures, there'll be different views on, and so I'm not seeking to have a debate about that. What I know is 838,000 people have lost a job, and that's what we have to turn around. And that's why our Jobmaker plan has two components to it. There are the necessary demand supports that we have in place and that we will continue to calibrate going forward, which provide support to the economy now, both to try and keep people in employment, and remembering that keeping people in employment is not just about JobKeeper. It's actually the industrial relations flexibility arrangements that are around JobKeeper that have now enabled employers to keep those people in jobs. But there is also, and I believe this is the point you were making, Catherine, there is the work that we do through Jobseeker. And Jobseeker is the place where, if you have lost your job, Jobseeker is the place where you can connect to other employment services, to training opportunities. And last Friday, when we were the National Cabinet, I may have remarked on that in the press conference. One of the issues I was talking with the states about, and they were raising with me, is how we better integrate state support services with federal support services and connecting them to these people who have lost jobs. And I think that's a great idea, and I can tell you we're working on that right now. So that's the immediate. But there is the longer term. As I indicated in my presentation on Monday, we're looking at around 2 years to get the economy back to where it was before COVID hit it. And let's make no mistake about this. This recession is a product of the coronavirus pandemic. Our economy was strengthening, stable and sound. Coronavirus is the reason people have lost their jobs. And it'll take us, we estimate, around 2 years to get back just to where we were when that happened. And I believe we can, over 5 years, seek to catch where we were planning to be. And that requires the Jobmaker plan of reforms to skills, of investments in infrastructure, deregulating our economy, making sure that our energy system, and particularly we get the gas for a gas-fired recovery which supports manufacturing, our defence manufacturing and defence industry policies, all of this are a part of our Jobmaker plan. Now, I've already outlined quite a bit on skills and industrial relations, deregulation and infrastructure. I'll have more to say about energy. I'll have more to say about our manufacturing sector. These are important further bricks in the wall for the government's plan, but what I can tell you is we've got a plan and we're implementing that plan. And it's a strong plan. It's a plan that runs for the next 5 years. And we've demonstrated the ability both to balance the budget and create 1.5 million jobs before, and we can do it again.
Andrew. The Security Committee, Prime Minister, should it be on the Security Committee? Do you have
I'm dealing with people who've lost their jobs today. I will come to Labor's scandals in a second. Yeah.
Prime Minister, it was only a few days ago that the Treasury Secretary was saying that unemployment would peak at 8%. Is that overly optimistic now, given Warren Hogan's assessment of it actually being around 11%?
I'll let the Treasurer.
Well, we'll update the numbers when it comes to the statement on the 23rd, but clearly the employment market is very, very difficult. And as the Prime Minister laid out, there is a plan to get people back into work, but we're also putting in place sector-specific supports like what we've done in the housing sector, which has been really important in getting tradies back into a job. So we'll update those unemployment numbers on the 23rd of July.
These figures are the worst we've seen in 23 years. You did say you were hoping that young people would be the first to benefit, but then you also said it would be about 2 years before we got to pre-corona levels. Would it be time to potentially consider youth-specific employment measures, things like job path being expanded, things that could really focus on entry-level employment?
Everything's on the table here. Everything's on the table here. On Monday, I highlighted the great risk of if you have young people not in a job before they're between 22 and 25, and how that can lead to a lifetime welfare dependency. Now, that is just not a sickening loss to the person themselves and a great waste of human capacity, but the longer-term effects for the nation are just significant. And it's always been my view, and I've had a great passion when it comes to getting young people into jobs. And that's why, whether it's what we're doing in the workplace relations and the industrial relations area, or the youth path initiatives, or the apprenticeships, I mean, that was one of the first things we did as we went into this crisis, is we amped up what we're doing on apprenticeships. And Michaelia Cash, as Minister, particularly in skills sector and small business, these are things we're focusing a lot of our attention on. So you're absolutely right. You know, getting people back into jobs right across the borders, and we've got to look at everything we can do.